In order to solve a problem, you at least have to be honest about the causes of the problem, especially when you know them. Take teenagers shooting and killing each other with guns. It's a huge problem. On average, street violence kills roughly 20 times or more kids every year than school shootings. 30 wounded and 4 dead in Alabama, 1 dead and a dozen injured in St. Louis, dozens shot in Chicago during Juneteenth celebrations. Here's how the Associated Press covers the situation at all. Mix of bravado and access to guns contribute to mass shootings by teens in St. Louis, other cities. No mention of gang culture, no mention of rap culture, no mention of soft-on-crime prosecutors, no mention of fatherless households. Colby Hall's here, founding editor at Mediaite. Look, this is an important problem. I can't understand why. I get being that guns are part of the problem. Why are they the only problem and all of the other causes are ignored?
Well, first of all, I applaud you for bringing this story up when we're not following a mass shooting, right? Very often we fall into this trap where there's a horrible event and then immediately we jump to the debate on policies around guns and we get into this sort of navel-gazy loop that gets us nowhere. So it's great that we're addressing this. I think you make something of a salient point, but my takeaway from that AP story was basically teenage boys are knuckleheads that do dumb things and have been forever. What's different now is that instead of solving their testosterone problems with fistfights and maybe knives, there's way more guns on the market than ever before. And while you're correct in saying that there are way many more influences, it's a very complicated story. What's really unique about the United States problem is that there are 350 million guns on the streets of the United States, which is far more than the rest of the 25 other countries combined. So yes, this was a stilted article to highlight the problem that guns are having. And yes, you are correct that it's a way more complicated problem. But I don't think that gang culture and rap culture are the reasons why people are shooting each other. It's difficult to have a short form news story that can properly address every single influence, isolation, the internet, anxiety a lot of these Gen Z kids are having. So I do think guns are a problem. Are they the only problem? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you make the point, though. Like, let's deal with the problems we can solve. 350 million guns on the American street. We're not going to solve that. One of the ways to solve it is by prosecuting felons in possessions of guns, which prosecutors in these cities say they're not going to do, and openly flout the laws and actively allow people who have been arrested as felons in possessions with guns to get out with no bail. Missing from the article. I just don't, I can't understand the guns are the boogeyman and sort of nothing else matters. It's like, I don't know, Lucy and the football or something of like, hey, like, we can take away guns, and if you're not willing to take away guns, we're not going to have any other discussion about things we can do to stop this problem. It seems as though they're using these kids, they're using the violence.
Well, I can see the point that it looks like we're exploiting the violence to make a political point. And by the way, that exists across the spectrum of media in general, right? I will say also that, I'm not sure that, saying that like no one is willing to take a holistic approach. Yes, you're absolutely right that soft on crime prosecutors take a heavy amount of blame here. So too does the degradation of the family network. But you can't also ignore that there's more guns that are less regulated in this country. And by the way, no one's really seriously arguing, no serious person is arguing that we should take away guns. The issues that gun reform people are arguing for is that we make it way more difficult for people who shouldn't have guns to not get them.
But
that's something that most everyone agrees with.
If you're going to make it difficult for people who shouldn't have guns to have guns, I get buying them legally. Most people are going to commit crimes. Most of these crimes are not done by people who go to their local gun store and buy a gun. It's bad people who get guns or teenagers who get guns, knuckleheads, as you said. The only way to keep them from getting guns is to prosecute those crimes when it happens. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.